Imagine this. You're walking through a crowded street, faces passing in endless streams, smiles flash, conversations hum, everyone wrapped in the fragile costume of normality. But beneath those polished surfaces, beneath your surface, lurks something unspoken, something carefully hidden. It's the rage you deny, the envy you disguise, the selfish desires you bury beneath a mask of virtue. And here's the paradox. The very parts of yourself you suppress the hardest are the ones that end up controlling you the most. In this video, we're diving deep into Carl Jung's concept of the shadow, the side of you that you keep ignoring. We'll explore why it exists, how it secretly shapes your life, and the devastating consequences of leaving it unchecked. And stay with me until the end, because I'll share an insight so powerful that it can completely change the way you see yourself in the world. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you never miss these deep dives into psychology and philosophy. If this resonates, hit the like button and share this video with someone who might need it. And I want to hear from you. Drop a comment at the end telling me which insight hit you the hardest. Your perspective might just spark a conversation that changes someone else's life. Now, let's step back into that crowded street. Everyone wearing masks, everyone hiding something, including you. You don't control the shadow by ignoring it, you become its puppet. And Jung's haunting warning echoes here. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist who spent his life plumbing the depths of the human psyche, called this hidden force the shadow. He believed that every human being carries within them a vast reservoir of everything they reject, deny, or condemn in themselves. It is the part you exile to the basement of your mind, hoping the locked door will hold. But Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Think about that for a moment. How much of your life, your choices, your relationships, your failures, might already be dictated by something you refuse to admit exists? The unsettling truth is this: you don't control the shadow by ignoring it. You become its puppet. And yet, society rewards you for the act of suppression. Be nice. Stay positive. Don't let them see you sweat. The world applauds your performance, while the stagehands in the dark, the envy, rage, fear, lust, insecurity, write the script behind the curtains. Here lies the contradiction you cannot escape. The shadow is you, but it is not the you want to be. It contains truths you don't want to face, but also the energy you desperately need. It feels like poison, yet it may hold the antidote. Do you see the tension? You are at war with yourself. And what happens when you fight a war you cannot win? The suppressed side grows stronger. Perhaps that explains why you lash out at people for the very flaws you deny in yourself, why you despise arrogance in others when pride secretly burns in your chest, why you criticize dishonesty while telling convenient lies to maintain your own fragile image. The question is no longer whether the shadow exists. You've felt it. You've seen glimpses of it in your weakest moments. The question that matters is far more disturbing. What happens to you and to the world around you if you never dare to confront it? Imagine for a moment if everyone you pass on that street carried the weight of their unacknowledged darkness. Imagine the collisions of hidden fears, unspoken desires, suppressed rage. You wouldn't just be walking through a city, you'd be walking through a battlefield disguised as daily life. And isn't that what we see? Betrayal in friendships, corruption in institutions, rage spilling into violence, entire nations torn apart by projected shadows. But here's the cruel irony. What you repress doesn't vanish. It seeps out, reshaping your world in ways you don't even recognize. The more you deny your own darkness, the more it manifests outside you, in the enemies you create, the injustices you rage against, the demons you believe are only out there. So ask yourself, are you really fighting the world, or are you fighting yourself in disguise? This is where Jung's question begins to haunt you, not just as a philosophical curiosity, but as an existential challenge. If you continue to ignore your shadow, are you truly living your life, or is your life quietly living you? And that leads us to the next pressing mystery. Why do we spend so much effort hiding this part of ourselves in the first place? What forces, both within and around us, convince us to exile half of our being into darkness, and at what cost? Why do we spend our lives hiding from ourselves? Why do we exile anger, envy, fear, desire, our most raw truths, into a basement of the mind, hoping the door never opens? Carl Jung called this buried force the shadow. He wrote, "The shadow's that hidden, repressed, for the most part inferior and guilt-laden personality whose ultimate ramifications reach back into the realm of our animal ancestors. Think about childhood. Every be polite, every disapproving glance, every moment of shame carved rules into your psyche. You learned which parts of you were rewarded and which parts were forbidden. You pruned yourself like a tree, cutting away the unacceptable branches until only a mask remained. And society doesn't just encourage this, it demands it. Social media curates perfection, schools reward obedience, workplaces applaud performance over honesty, even spirituality whispers, stay positive, stay light. Meanwhile, the shadow grows heavier in the dark. Here's the contradiction. The very traits you exile are often the ones you need the most. Anger could have been courage. Envy could have revealed your true desires. Selfishness could have taught boundaries. But by burying them, you bury your own power. If you're starting to recognize pieces of your shadow, subscribe, because this is where psychology meets real life. And comment below. What part of yourself do you notice you tend to hide from the world? But here's the darker truth. Suppression doesn't erase the shadow, it mutates. Jung compared it to a wild beast chained in the cellar. You might not see it, but you'll feel its claws in your nightmares, in the arguments you regret, in the quiet moments when you don't even recognize yourself. Nietzsche warned, beware that when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster. Because the monster isn't always out there, it's within. Ignore it long enough, and it doesn't just haunt individuals, it consumes nations. Jung saw Hitler not as an anomaly, but as the embodiment of a nation's shadow. Rage, humiliation, fear, denied until it erupted. So here's the problem. Ignoring your shadow is not harmless. It is self-destruction in slow motion. Which brings us to the next terrifying question. What are the unseen consequences shaping your life right now without you even knowing it? Picture your life as a chessboard. Every decision feels like your move. But what if half of those moves are made by the shadow? This is the first consequence, the illusion of control. You think patterns like bad relationships, self-sabotage, or explosive reactions are just who you are. Jung's truth? They're not fate. They're the shadow pulling strings. Cognitive biases prove this. Projection, confirmation bias, the attribution error. These aren't random flaws. They're how the shadow distorts reality. And projection is its favorite trick. You deny arrogance, so you see arrogance everywhere. You repress anger, and the world feels hostile. You bury selfishness, and suddenly everyone else looks greedy. What you cannot tolerate in yourself, you demonize in others. This is the second consequence, distortion of reality. Conflicts spiral because people fight mirrors, not enemies. Nations fracture because societies project their disowned darkness onto each other. Jung warned, the greatest danger to civilization lies not in the forces of nature, nor in any physical disease, but in our inability to deal with the forces of our own unconscious. And here's the third consequence, erosion of self. Suppression bleeds you dry. The energy you spend burying emotions is energy you can't use to live. Anger could have been strength, envy, a compass, selfishness, self-respect. But deny them, and you live half alive, masked, hollow, and disconnected. Even your body remembers. Neuroscience shows repressed emotions trigger stress, weaken immunity, and fuel illness. Your mind may deny the shadow, but your flesh keeps the score. If this part struck a chord, like this video so more people can discover it. And tell me in the comments, have you ever caught yourself projecting onto someone else? Now we arrive at the haunting truth. Ignoring the shadow doesn't just warp your life, it devours it. Which raises the ultimate question. If the shadow has this much power to destroy, could it also hold the power to set you free? Imagine turning to face the shadow you've been running from all your life. This is the rebellion, not against the world, but against denial. Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Freedom doesn't come from fleeing the shadow. It comes from integration. Step 1. Name it. Envy? Call it envy. Rage? Admit it's yours. Selfishness? Own it. Shadows lose power when you stop pretending they don't exist. Step 2. Transform it. Anger becomes courage. Envy becomes aspiration. Selfishness becomes self-respect. What poisoned you becomes fuel. History shows this is possible. Gandhi turned anger into resistance. Jung himself turned terrifying visions into the foundation of his life's work. Those who face their darkness unlock the energy to change the world. If this resonates, subscribe right now. Because here, we don't settle for surface-level positivity. We dig for truths that transform lives. And comment. If you named your shadow today, what would it reveal? But beware, the path is razor thin. Dive too deep and you risk being consumed. Stay too shallow and you remain a prisoner. Jung called it holding the tension of opposites. Yet if you can, something extraordinary happens. You stop seeing enemies everywhere. You stop fearing yourself. And you reclaim the energy wasted in suppression. Here's the paradox. The shadow was never a monster. It was an abandoned child, begging to be let back in. The rebellion isn't killing it, it's bringing it home. And that leads us to the most powerful realization of all, the truth that changes everything. Silence. The war within finally stops. The shadow stands before you, not as a beast, but as something you recognize. And then it hits you. The shadow was never your enemy. It was your missing half. Jung's ultimate insight was that wholeness doesn't come from clinging to light or fleeing darkness. It comes from their union. You are both creator and destroyer, disciplined and chaotic, saint and sinner. Without the shadow, you are only a fragment. Light itself proves this. Without shadow, light is blinding, flat, meaningless. Depth exists only through contrast, and the shadow is not only your flaws, it is your gold. Jung said, "The shadow is 90% pure gold. Inside what you fear most lies your greatest potential." So how do you embrace it? Be honest. Write the thoughts you'd never say aloud. Watch your judgments. What you condemn in others is often your own reflection. Study your dreams. They are the shadow's stage. Act differently. Channel anger into boundaries, envy into growth, selfishness into self-care. This is not indulgence, it is integration. And when you integrate, something shifts. The shadow no longer sabotages from the dark. It fuels you. The war ends. And for the first time, you live as yourself, not as a mask. If this truth resonates, like this video right now. Subscribe for more dives like this. And comment. Which part of your shadow are you ready to face today? Now imagine a world where everyone did this. Leaders admitting greed and transforming it into responsibility. People owning envy and turning it into growth. Societies healing instead of projecting. That world begins with you. But beware. Your journey isn't finished, because just as you integrate your shadow, society tempts you with another trap. A trap disguised not in darkness, but in light, toxic positivity. The pressure to stay happy, stay positive, and never show weakness. A mask just as dangerous as denial. That's our next journey. The dark side of positivity no one talks about. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more of such deep, thought-provoking content.